It's 5:42 p.m. on a Tuesday. Mark is sitting in his car, engine off for exactly 4 minutes. The silence in the driveway is deafening, broken only by the faint tink-tink of the cooling engine. He's staring at the texture of his steering wheel like it's the most interesting thing in the world, phone face down on the passenger seat. His shoulders are hunched up toward his ears, carrying the invisible weight of a meeting that ended 7 hours ago, yet never really stopped. There's this dull throb behind his eyes, like his brain's a squeezed out sponge trying to puff back up. He knows he needs to head inside, dishes waiting, dog to walk, kid excited about a drawing, dinner to throw together, but he just can't move yet. He's stuck in what I call the driveway limbo, that sacred exhausted space where you aren't a worker anymore, but you're not quite a father or a husband yet. He traded hours of his life for pay, but sitting there, he realizes the numbers don't add up. Mark did it all right, showed up, crushed it, earned his check, but facing the evening, he's already in the red. He's not lazy, he's not broken, he's just dealing with how damn expensive it is to keep going in this setup. I spent 3 years feeling exactly like this before I realized what was happening. When this kept happening to Mark night after night, he started wondering if something was wrong with him. He's not losing his mind. He's losing his margin. And today we're going to get it back. Picture this as Mark's story. Maybe it sounds like yours too. By the end, you'll see how small tweaks changed everything for him. In the next 15 minutes, I'm going to show you the one specific boundary Mark set that saved him more energy than a week of vacation. Be honest with me and yourself how many minutes you spend in that driveway limbo before you find the strength to open the door. Let's see who's holding the record in the comments. Let's talk about something nobody wants to admit. Everything you're about to hear comes from a mix of tracked household data, public labor and cost of living statistics, and repeated real-world cases, not theory, not motivation talk. In 2026, $30 an hour is supposed to mean you've made it to the safe zone, not thriving, maybe, but at least not falling behind. That's what Mark believed when he saw it on his pay stub. But here's where it gets weird. When I dug into the real mechanics of Mark's day, I spotted this wild mismatch. Subtract the hidden costs of just showing up, keeping his body going and buying back lost time, and that $30 starts vanishing. It's like a bucket filled with gold, but the bottom is made of cheesecloth. By the time Mark hit that quiet car moment at 5:42 p.m., he was shocked at how little was left after all the sneaky drains. Mark wasn't imagining his exhaustion. He was feeling the weight of the money that evaporated before he even got home. We're about to break down exactly where it went for Mark, using real numbers, not guesses. But before we touch the numbers, there's one assumption Mark made. The same one almost everyone makes. If this assumption stays invisible, raises often fail to fix the tiredness on their own. What finally shifted for Mark wasn't motivation. It was seeing the math laid out in front of him for the first time. In cases I've tracked closely, including Mark's, these same math shifts consistently freed up a few $100s a month and something even harder to get back usable time. If you're feeling the squeeze, don't move. This is for you. Ever felt like Mark where the pay looks good but the energy's gone? Is there a specific bill or cost that makes you wince every time it hits your inbox? To get why Mark's money was slipping away, think of it like a business's cost of goods sold, not just what comes in, but what it costs to make that happen. For him, as an essential professional, revenue was that $30 gross rate. When Mark laid everything out, bank statements, commute miles, time lost, recovery, the story stopped feeling emotional. It was just consistent. The same pattern shows up again and again when you look at public labor and cost of living data. It's a synthesis from 3 places: real household expense tracking, public IRS and BLS cost of living data, and repeated cases of people who did everything right and still felt underwater. That consistency is what made it impossible to ignore. First hit taxes. In 2026 brackets that in Mark's case shaved roughly $6 to $8 off each $30 hour, depending on household setup, depending on filing status and state, leaving him around $21 to $22.50 per hour after federal and state. Keep in mind, Mark lives in a mid-tax state like Virginia or Colorado. He stopped there at first thinking cool $22 take home. But nope. That's not the real leftover, it's just after tax gross. We haven't hit the bridge yet. The bridge getting your body to work. The bridge is all the stuff Mark needed to get his butt from home to work, physical and cash wise. Driving his basic car, using current IRS mileage guidance as a reference point, not as a deduction, but as a real world proxy for vehicle wear, fuel, and maintenance. The real cost per mile adds up faster than most people expect. Now, I know what you're thinking. That's for business miles, not commuting. You're right. But here's the thing, whether the IRS lets you deduct it or not, your bank account doesn't care about tax codes. It only cares about the wear on the tires. Mark's 20-mile round trip cost him about $13 a day, plus the time, an hour in traffic he couldn't use for himself, but the job demanded it. Think about that. Mark is donating 5 hours of his life every week to a highway. That's an entire unpaid workday every month spent staring at brake lights, spreading commute costs over his shift. He was down to around $18 to $19 per productive hour. The machine maintenance looking professional costs money. Next, machine maintenance, keeping Mark looking and feeling pro for that $30 gig. He couldn't roll in looking like he just rolled out of bed. Needed work clothes, grooming, and fuel. With mornings eaten by the job, he grabbed a $4 coffee and $9 lunch, not cause he's bad with money, but because his willpower was already spent by 11 a.m. These weren't splurges for Mark Hay, they were like oil for his engine. Let's say that's another $3 to $4 per hour gone. We're now at $15 an hour. Half of Mark's value is gone before he even touches his front door. This is the moment most people stop doing the math, because what shows up next isn't a budgeting problem. Here's what Mark never priced in. He thought he was selling hours, but what he was really trading away slowly, quietly was his ability to recover. And once that recovery started slipping, every dollar he earned began costing more than it looked like. Quick gut check. If Mark quit this job tomorrow, he wouldn't just lose income. He'd instantly gain something he hasn't felt in years. That's the part nobody prices in. The exhaustion tax, the real killer. The sneakiest one is the exhaustion tax. This is cash Mark blew because the job zapped his efficiency. Home at 6 p.m., totally wiped, he lacked brain power for cooking from scratch. He'd order $15 to $18 DoorDash instead of making the $6 chicken and rice in his fridge. He paid for streaming he barely used cause to poop for real hobbies, and a gym membership gathering dust because he thought buying health would fix the tiredness. Here's where I messed up for years. I thought I was lazy. Turns out, I was just playing a rigged game. The exhaustion tax was costing me about $200 a month, and I didn't even see it until I tracked every dollar for 30 days. I want you to pause the video right now. Look at your last 3 Uber Eats or DoorDash orders. Was that because the food was amazing or because you were too tired to exist? That night, Mark caught himself thinking, what's the one expense I dread seeing every month? He didn't like the answer. Most people have one. People usually don't talk about it, but when they finally name it, even silently, it changes how the math feels. Mark's story hit home for me because that's how my exhaustion tax added up too. Mine was buying video games I never played just for a hit of dopamine after a bad shift. What's your tired purchase? When you add it all up for Mark, taxes, commute, work lunches, exhaustion spending, he was left with way less margin than he thought. The exact number varies by person, but the pattern's real. What hit Mark wasn't bad budgeting. It wasn't discipline, and it wasn't laziness. It was something with a name. I call it the survival friction trap, and the trap works because it never looks like a trap. It looks like adulthood. It looks like responsibility. It looks like just how life is. It's the financial equivalent of running a marathon in sand. You're putting in max effort, but half your energy is just fighting the ground. The trap's sneaky cause Mark saw his spending as choices, like if he budgeted better or ditched lattes, it'd fix everything. But nah, the latte wasn't the issue. The systemic drain making it feel essential was. The setup tended to keep Mark in near liquid stasis, that's earning just enough to cover life's drags, but not to cut them. Mark made enough for car upkeep to commute, but not to ditch it. Enough for quick dinners, but not the time to skip them. The numbers worked, but not for him. It's a treadmill keeping him running without real forward motion. So what do? I'll be honest, I don't have a magic quit your job and get rich solution. If you're looking for a get rich quick scheme, you're on the wrong channel. But if you want to stop the bleeding, I have 3 friction reduction tactics that actually move the needle for me. I'm reading every single comment on this video because your friction points help me build better tools for this community. Hitting this realization felt heavy for Mark, like despair or low-key anger bubbling up. But listen, for many people, that feeling isn't pathology. It's often a rational response to unsustainable math, to the math not adding up. Mark wasn't failing himself. The numbers were quietly failing him first. Despair is expensive. It's the ultimate energy drain. This clarity is about ditching shame. For years, Mark beat himself up. Why so tired? Why nothing to show? He blamed his discipline compared to online perfect folks. But seeing the numbers, shame gone. He wasn't failing the game. It had a steep entry fee. This let him stop self-fighting, shift from why mate to how to handle. When the shame dies, the strategy begins. Let's get strategic. No quitting jobs or side hustles here. Those often just swap frictions for Mark. Instead, focus on friction reduction. If he felt like not much was left after everything, the power move wasn't earning more, but leaking less. Tactic number 1, the recovery tax audit. First, the recovery tax. Mark's weekends were crash zones. Saturday recovering, Sunday dreading. Pricey, with cash going to numbing stuff. What worked? He started Sunday prep hour. He treated his Sunday night like a pit stop for a Formula One car. Close out, meals prepped, decisions made. He wasn't just saving time, he was protecting his Monday morning willpower so he didn't have to buy it back with an $8 double shot latte. Tactic number 2, the convenience leak plug. Second, the convenience leak. Mark aimed to spot tiredness premiums. At the store, he'd ask, buying this cause it's good, or too wiped to pick better? He realized that pre-cut onions were costing him nearly 4 times as much per meal as whole ones. He wasn't paying for onions, he was paying a laziness tax imposed by his job. By switching to high-value lazy food like a $6 rotisserie chicken, he saved $80 a month without cooking a single thing. Tactic number 3, the boundary of availability. Last, boundary of availability. This is the one I promised you earlier. Mark realized that checking Slack at 8 p.m. was like inviting his boss to sit on his couch for free. He deleted the apps. He stopped volunteering for unpaid emotional labor. That move didn't just save time, it lowered his baseline stress, which meant he didn't need the exhaustion tax spending to feel human again. Across people who applied these shifts seriously, the outcome wasn't dramatic, but it was stabilizing. A few $100s of pressure gone, and several hours a week that finally felt like theirs again. In Mark's cost of living bracket in 2026, $400 a month wasn't extra cash. It often becomes the difference between constant pressure and breathing room. To beat the survival friction trap, Mark shifted how he saw himself. Not just a worker, he's a system with limits, recovery needs, and hidden costs. He realized he was the CEO of Mark Inc., and his business had too much overhead. Viewing himself as a system, Mark's exhaustion became data, not failure. Tired, leak somewhere, broke on good pay, friction too high. For Mark, the real win wasn't higher pay, it was margin. Margin's the space between what Mark could do and what he had to. In this setup, it's gold, better than cash, because cash often plugs margin holes. If you want to see the simple framework Mark used to spot these leaks, I've left it quietly linked below. Use it if it helps. And if this video gave you even one aha moment, hit that subscribe button. We're building a community of people who refuse to just survive the math. Next time Mark sat in his car at 5:42 p.m., dashboard staring with that weight, he remembered the math. Those 4 quiet minutes, not waste. His first real breathing room, that silence was his no tax, no commute steal, no unwanted convenience spend. Mark wasn't crazy or lazy. He was in a math mismatch few name. Naming it killed the shame. The friction is real, the exhaustion is real, but so is your ability to reduce it. one small move at a time. You're not broken. The system just charges more than it admits. And once you see that, you can finally start negotiating. Not with your boss, not with the world, but with what you're willing to give away without noticing. Once Mark saw the math, he stopped asking, "What's wrong with me?" He started asking a better question, That question changed everything. Not because the system became fair, but because Mark finally saw where he still had leverage. If someone came to mind while you were listening, that's probably not an accident. No need to call them out, just a quiet DM. Let's help each other find our margin again. See you in the next one. Disclaimer, this video is for educational and informational purposes only. It is based on historical data and general financial principles. Always consult a qualified professional before making financial decisions.